Hi, and welcome to our webcast about Security Copilot Agents. Let's go through the agenda. I will start to do a small introduction about Security Copilot in general. Second, my colleague Christof will go through agents and the agent's architecture, and we'll go through a demo, and we will build an agent. And last, I will show the security store and the Security Copilot agents created by us. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is André Mieth. I'm a cybersecurity architect working for glueckkanja.
I'm Christof. I've been working for glueckkanja for about 2 years, and I've had the pleasure of developing the agents with André from a more development-centric standpoint, so that's what I'll do today.
Great. So let's begin with Security Copilot in general. So you might have noticed there's been a small but important change in the past. Microsoft rebranded and renamed Security Copilot. They started with Copilot for Security with the blue logo. But now we have a completely new rebranded product, Security Copilot. Just to make clear that because you'll see sometimes some blogs or some documentations referring to Copilot for Security, and this is sometimes a little bit tricky. All right. Let me go through the timeline and the history of Security Copilot in general. It started everything in 2023. Microsoft announced in general Security Copilot. They started an early access program and went through 2024 to go to GA, the product in general, right? Yeah. But this year was impressive. I mean, they started to announce agents, so first-party agents provided by Microsoft, and went through to the on July, for example, the first agents became GA, right? So like the conditional access optimization agent. But then in September, the security store became public preview. And we know a lot about the security store because it integrates the third-party agents. And we built a lot of them. We will see them later. And I mean, November is coming. Ignite is coming. We will see what Microsoft will show us regarding Security Copilot and the agents. When we talk about Security Copilot, it is important to understand that we have several possibilities to use it. First, we have the Standalone portal. This is securitycopilot.microsoft.com. This is my central point where I can find everything regarding Security Copilot. So I can manage my subscribed agents, for example. I can take care about the usage in general. It's a hot topic in general. And I can handle the airbag at all. The next is the so-called embedded experience. So, you and your colleagues may already work in the all well-known portals like Entra, like Azure Portal, Intune, and Defender XDR, for example. What we see here is an incident, for example, from the Defender XDR portal, right? So, and the analyst has on the right corner the information from Security Copilot, a small summary about the incidents, some triage information, and containment information provided by Security Copilot. And last but not least, if you use agents, this is the third part where you are able to use Security Copilot at all. But regarding the agents, we will see later a lot of more of these things. Yeah, as I said, we have these three areas where we can find Security Copilot: Standalone, Embedded, and Agents. And in this webcast, we will focus on agents. Christof made a beautiful infrastructure overview about Security Copilot, so I stole it. I don't want to go too deep in this slide, but I want to mention some points from security perspective. Because especially in Germany, it's a very important part, but also for the rest of the customers around the world. So in general, the OpenAI has no access to all of these data, right? So everything is handled inside of the Microsoft managed instance inside of the Azure. So Microsoft is hosting these parts on their own. And this means that the data stays inside of the Microsoft ecosystem. It's secured secured by Microsoft and inside of the compliance boundary. This means that also all prompts, what you type or which information you give the agent, for example, over the agent, or if you use the prompt in general with Security Copilot, is grounded, which means if you type, for example, some personal information inside, grounding means that the AI takes care about that nothing will leave your security boundary to OpenAI, for example. And also vice versa. So the other way around. If the response comes back, there are some responsibility AI checks, which means that we have some technical as well as ethical checks that everything is well secured and good.
Right, so let's go over to the more of the agent's infrastructure, more of the technical background. Coming back to what André already mentioned, we have witnessed a kind of a revolution or like an evolution in the Security Copilot space, going from the Standalone Copilot, which was very much not context aware, to the embedded experience, which had some context and could maybe answer some questions when asked about like specific stuff. And the final step that we want to talk about today, the agent in itself. So the smart Security Copilot that dynamically uses its own tools, fetches data, and provides a much better experience. Come in from just having more responsibility and more tools to actually achieve these things, maybe. All right, so let's have a look at the comparison here. But we see the traditional automation maybe and the agentic AI, which the traditional automation was very much code-based. You had your scripts, you had your PowerShells maybe, you had your automation accounts, and you had a predefined logic which these would run through and would achieve some kind of end goal, or maybe also not. Right? So we have these typical code segments which can work on its own very well if they are well written and well maintained in a controlled environment, but they are also pretty stale if it comes to complexity. Something changes. You have these the stuff that every developer maybe goes through. Some dependency changes somewhere, and your script breaks, and nothing works anymore. You have to go in. You have to invest a lot of time. You have to make some changes, figure out where the problem is even coming from. And I think this is the big change that has come with Security Copilot. You have a more dynamic, flexible way of doing things now. You have a kind of more hands-off approach. It's still, as André mentioned, very secure. The Copilot works very tightly with the human-controlled operator, so it doesn't do anything it shouldn't do. But the big upside is that it's just a more robust way of having automations done. Also, what we see is the big benefit in Copilot is the continuous learning. So we're going to see that in the demo maybe later, but you can supply feedback on different runs of the agent, and it will incorporate that in the next runs. So maybe the output is not what you want, or maybe you want to focus on some detail more. You can give that back to the Copilot. It memorizes this, and it produces the thing you actually want and the actual thing you benefit from. Which is also a great upside, right?
It's like learning,
yeah,
right?
So if you wanted to do that with, as I said, the traditional automation, you maybe need to go in, tweak some changes, maybe implement new features even, which can be time consuming. It can be very stressful, right? So that is all gone with Security Copilot agents now, which are just a way more flexible way of doing things. Coming to the slide André mentioned, he stole from me. I allowed it.
It was for a good thing.
Good cause. Going into the actual inner works of the agent. So we're gonna explore this on the next slide a little bit more, but I just wanted to have this nice overview. We have these human-controlled operators, which we see interacting with the Security Copilot. So that is your one-stop shop, maybe, which then very dynamically chooses what to do on based on which tools it has or what you ask of it. We basically have three things we want to cover. We want to highlight that the Security Copilot works very well with the resources you already have. Maybe you have a very large environment, you are very heavily migrated to the cloud or cloud only, and you have all these resources. You have your Purview, you have your Sentinel, you have your Defender, you have your Entra, of course, always. And Security Copilot really neatly integrates into that and is able to very dynamically fetch data from this. This could either be through something powerful tools that already exist, like Graph API, which a lot of developers also are probably familiar with, or KQL, right? The analysts are very trained in that. So we have these dynamic ways of fetching data from all services that you're already using. So it integrates nicely with the infrastructure you already have and with the stuff you're already using. Of course, agents are kind of thought of in a way of being very specific and doing one thing very well. And that is the big upside of using MCPs, right? You have this agent-to-agent communication. You have agents that can call other agents to just get a much better results, call them dynamically, feed them dynamically input. So you can correlate data much faster, right? I think we were testing this in our lab. We were testing our PIM agent, which you can get in the store, and our assignment insights agent to just really figure out what roles are permanently assigned, what PIM roles are being used, who is using what. And that is, I think, a great tool which work very well together, covering all this ground of like these legacy static assignments and these dynamic PIM assignments. Of course, gathering all this data, this needs to be computed somewhere, right? You don't want to just have this blob of data which Security Copilot retrieves and just goes, here, have that, and make of that as what you want. You need a need report, and that is really where the more traditional, I think, Copilot comes in as the brains of the whole operation, right? You have all this data aggregated, you have called some other agents which have received some data, and you now need to make sense of it all. And that is really the third part, what we see up in the upper thing of the slide is the Security Copilot that takes all of this and puts it into a nice wrapped gift that it hands you, and that one can very well work with. So that is kind of the things you can. That I think makes Security Copilot very special, because it has all this versatility and can access all these things you're already using. All right, so heading into the more basic presentation and just going over the skills which a Security Copilot actually consists of. You have this very central agent skill, which is kind of the head of the operation, right? So this is using GPT models, as André explained. They are all nicely locked down, so no data is leaving. And this agent is provided some skills it can use. These skills could be either Microsoft written, or you can bring your own. It's very easy to create something like a KQL skill or some API skill that should be called, and bring that to the table to very, I think, greatly enrich the experience. So the agent has all these skills, right, and a kind of a game plan. So you want to have a very specific thing from the agent, and it should do very specific things, and do the output then with the output then correlate that into maybe you want a JSON or maybe you want a report, and that is what the agent is for. So as I mentioned, the KQL skills, this is very versatile. We mentioned Defender before, we mentioned Sentinel before. It can do all that. It can also work with custom Custo clusters, so it is very flexible in that way. Whatever you have, it can be integrated with that. And the GPT skill, as I mentioned, is kind of this thinking skill, or this making sense of it all skill, maybe, that can aggregate data very nicely, formulate some things, and that's the making the gist out of it, basically. Also, we have custom API skills. These are either the APIs you already know, like Graph API, Hunting APIs, maybe some other Microsoft APIs that you're working with, whatever your platform is. And these are also third-party skills. So we have some big providers already. Some names that come to mind are Shodan or Whois, like looking that stuff up. That's very nice for threat intelligence, or just looking up your own devices on Shodan, right? So that can be nicely integrated. However, it's very nice to integrate your own things, and that's also very easy. Copilot works with open API specs, so you can define, okay, how do I want to access this API? We have a lot of ways of doing that. We can go through delegated, we can go through API keys, we can go through tokens, all of that. So that's very flexible, whatever your custom API that you or your company already designed supports. And that can be just plugged in nicely through the Open API spec, which is in the development world a very well-known standard, very well supported, so that's not a big hassle either. And then the MCP skills, which are kind of special on their own, seeing as they utilize different sub-agents, which have a very specific field that you want to take advantage of, and you can do that easily through that. Right, so what does an agent run actually look like? We're gonna zoom into this, no worries. This is what a test agent run of one of our newest agent looks like in a, to be fair, pretty small environment, right? It can get a lot more complex, also depending on the user prompt, the stuff you actually want to know. And when we look at that, I think we really see the adaptability of the agent, right? We see, okay, we started out with like a user prompt with some input, way over on the left-hand side, and got over, it got a big tree on the right side. It split up based on what data it got in previous steps. So it does that very nicely, and it splits up, okay, what do I need to do based on the data I got, right? We can see, okay, here we have 3 variations where it just gotten new data. We have 2 up there, and that can be infinitely complex. However, this is a testing run we did, so you can also very nicely debug these through those, and look into the different skills of the agent and look into the different steps it did, and have a full clarity on what your agent is doing, what it's requesting, and what data it got, which makes the transparency very much better, and the debugging of the agent if something doesn't work once very, very nicely. So transitioning over to our live demo, I think, let me pull that up 1 second. So yeah, we're back in the very familiar agent portal by now, heading over to the build step, just showing how easy it is to actually get started with an agent. You actually have a lot of options here. We're gonna briefly ignore the things on the left side, which give you a little bit of more insight into your previous sessions, or give you a way to manage your workspace better. I'm gonna focus on the actual building experience. Microsoft offers simple agent ideas here. These are a great starting point on what you want to get, and you can refine them later on. So we can maybe just build something like this. And what opens here is a GPT-like or chat-like window where you can really communicate with your agent. It is gonna ask you different things if you don't really specify them in your prompt, like what the agent name should be in a particular, or what it should run on. So that is a very helpful experience for getting started. But it just built the agent here. We can look at the steps later, but let's head over to the agent directly. So we wanted a threat intelligence agent, and that is what it got us. And we have like a little overview.
So that was very fast. We just created an agent,
yeah,
right?
So that is
Wow.
the starting point.
Okay.
You have, and I mean, this is a very simple agent, but of course we could go over here and refine it. Say, okay, we want this and this trigger. We want to use this and this and these tools, and slowly build on that, right?
So
you have,
fine tuning.
yeah. Bring in different skills, maybe also, for example, and we have this very development and testing friendly environment. We are gonna head over to the testing section in just a second, but maybe let's examine what we have here. You can view the raw code if you're already familiar with YAML. It's just the agent definition in the raw code. Of course, it's not very big right now, but that is also something you can maybe work with in your Git environment maybe, and versionize the agent actually. So that's also a very neat way of having the more traditional coding experience, I guess. But we can also view that too through the portal here. All right, so we have a display name, we have a description, and we have some instructions. We have some inputs, right? It's gonna it default generate an input on how much we actually want, which is also a big thing you might want to specify, because too much is not that you lose the overview, and too little is also not why we are here for. And we have this agent skill that it created. We can see that on the top right, the type. So we see the agent skill here. Okay, maybe just go ahead and run it real quick, see what we get. And in the testing section here, you have different ways to test. You can test different tools the agent has. So if for example, if we had a KQL skill, maybe, we could test it isolated here, have a very nice debug experience, but we have this agent skill for now, which we're just gonna run with a limit of 5 sounds about right. And we're gonna go ahead and run that. So that's gonna take a second. It's now pulling, in this specific case, it's pulling the Microsoft TI data. And it returned a nice JSON here. Of course, we didn't specify on what data we wanted, so it is very valid that agents would work with JSON, seeing as in an MCP scenario, you maybe want something that is machine readable, right? No. So the agent can't really read like nicely structured tables. That might be very nice for us, but in a real scenario, you might want to have JSON, which we got in this case. We could go back and specify, okay, we want this and this in this section, in this format, which it would also do then. But for now, this is maybe fine. And going back to what I just showed, the activity map. Of course, this is very small right now. It's not a complex agent, but we can see it ran from the start and went over to retrieve some threat intelligence. It fetched the skill set it should use, so dynamically going off of that, what might be useful there, and then generated a nice output. And we can maybe look into that, and we see, okay, we see the parameters we gave it and the output it generated, which we also see in the JSON. All right, I think that might conclude the building experience, and let's have a look at the portal, shall we? Look at the finished product.
Yeah, right. Now we are going through the security store, and we are talking about our agents we created for this security store. First, Dorothy Lee, she's a corporate vice president. It's a good summary of the security store.
Yeah,
It's a
so true.
central point from Microsoft to collect everything regarding security products about or around the Microsoft security ecosystem. Right. So, and for that, we will go just to the store and have a look, right? All right. So as you can see, I'm at securitystore.microsoft.com. And as I mentioned earlier, this is currently in public preview.
Yeah.
And Microsoft intention is to, as I said, everything regarding security products around the Microsoft security ecosystem should go into this store. We can see that we have solutions, we have agents, specific standards and partners. But let's focus on the agents part, right?
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, exactly. So, and as you can see, Microsoft is providing some filters. So we are able to filter all these currently available agents. And we are talking about first-party as well as third-party agents. We have an overview if an agent is free or is providing a free trial or is for purchase. And as I said, we can filter for the publisher. And let's filter for the first-party agents first. And you can see Microsoft is currently providing 6 agents in his security store. And I earlier mentioned the condition access optimization agent. Let's pick this one out here. And for example, this agent is currently general available, right? So you can go and use this agent. This agent integrates into the embedded portal. And you may remember what I have told you earlier. We have different areas where we can use Security Copilot. And this is an example of a first-party agent, which is usable in the embedded experience inside of entra-microsoft.com. So this is an area where you should already be familiar or your admins should be familiar with this portal. And Microsoft integrated this agent in this experience. All right, let's go back and let's have a look on the third-party agents. And let me just type an additional filter here. We already mentioned it. We provided the 10 agents, and we have currently the most agents in the security store, and there are coming more. So we just hit some push buttons today, so we expect more to come. And it's not possible to talk in this webcast about every agent. That would be a little bit too much, but let me just highlight maybe 1 or 2 of them. So maybe the license optimizer agent, right? So everyone knows the part of, okay, we need licenses for our users.
Sure.
Some users may need more licenses than the other users. And we all know if you have made some M365 E5 licenses assigned, but some users don't use the additional features compared to E3 licenses, for example.
Right.
With this agent, you will get a report who is using what and where do you have some possibilities to save money in the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really nice money saver. In big environments, you often waste licenses, right? And it is even more nice since the agent comes free. You can just freely deploy it into your tenant and use it forever without charge. So that's a really nice added benefit, I think.
This is a good information because this is also relevant for all of our agents. So all of our agents currently deployed in the store are free for use.
Right.
All right, let's go to the next agent, the forensic agent. It was our first agent, our first idea.
Yeah.
And I still love the idea, right, Christopher?
Yeah.
Christoph, I mean, we have talked a lot about it. The idea to be able to create a report which is not only for technical staff or for technical employees,
Right.
but also for the executives, right? So with the forensic agent, you can create a summary with an executive report with a technical detail about the impacted assets and comes to a conclusion in the end of the report. But we will have a short look on it.
Right. What I just want to throw in is what's really nice. It's a great showcase for the things I talked about earlier, because we are implementing basically all of the skills I talked about. Like we're using third-party APIs. We're using Shodan, for example, to look up some data. We are using Circle, like it's incorporating like third-party stuff that doesn't really come with Microsoft, or Microsoft has a good repertoire on it, but it doesn't hurt to bring in third party, right? So that is I think one of the big benefits also of the agent. It covers it all.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, now we want this agent, right? So let's get the agent. Let's go shopping. Get the solution. There are some prerequisites for sure. So you need Security Copilot. You need the proper permissions for the subscription, right? But if everything is settled up, you will see this screen. So you can choose the right subscription. You can pick the right resource group and you give it a name. So let's say it's the Forensic Agent Webcast Edition. And you will see the part regarding the price and payment. And as Christof already said, this agent is totally free of charge from our point. You can add optional text, but we will leave this blank. Don't worry about the 1 month subscription. It's nothing we provide. The agent is just free of charge.
Right. So a lot of people get this confused. Right. The agent stays free of charge. So it's just a 1 month subscription that renews every month. But there are no payments and no extra billing coming from this agent.
Exactly. Okay, we hit next. We get a short summary what we have configured. We can go to the next part and we will get an overall overview. What was configured, how does the order details look like, and the deployment details. And then we can place the order. Just to be prepared for this webcast, I've already done this. And we are going now to the Standalone portal.
Something I showed earlier, right?
Exactly. Let's go to the agents overview. And let's look for the forensic agent. Here it is. Let's go to the agent. And what we see here is a short overview with the description. So what is everything about this agent?
Right.
What is the agent doing, right? The next part is about the trigger. So you are able to define, or it's in general possible to define automatic trigger because of a specific event, for example, or you can run it manually, what we are now, or what we will do. Some permissions information with which account is this agent connected. At this point, it is possible to provide my identity, for example, because I will set up this agent, so I provide my identity to this agent, so the agent has my rights to get all these data Christof mentioned, so from Sentinel, Defender XDR, etc. And you can see all these used plugins in this agent. So let's give it a try. We will run one time. And now the agent is asking me, okay, I need some input, because Christof defined, okay, this agent can run, but it needs some information.
Yeah.
So what we have to provide here is an incident ID. So 110 is an example incident. Let's run this agent. And because of the time this run needs, we already prepared one run. So this one will pop up here in progress. And now you can see it. And we will go to the last run we did before to have a look on the results, so the outcome from the agent, right?
Yeah.
And you can see what I have mentioned earlier. We see a short executive summary. So we can export this response in a Word document, for example.
Yeah. Hand it down to your superior, right?
Exactly. And we have one document with all the necessary information, regardless of the recipient of the documentation, right? So the executive has a summary, but if you will hand it over to some identity guys, network guys, stuff like that, they will also find some interesting part inside of this report. Let's go through all these informations here. So we have some key events in the timeline mentioned by the agent, for example, but as well some stripped down flowchart timeline. What happened exactly at which time? And it depends a little bit which assets are affected.
Right.
And maybe you have some external IP addresses involved, so we will call showdown to check for the backend information about this IP address, or if you have some devices involved in this incident, then we will call, for example, Intune or Defender XDR to get some insights.
And I mean, you see this very nicely here. For example, you were involved in this incident.
I'm sorry.
For example, and it did a little bit more of just who was the identity involved, like pulling that from the incident. It also dynamically fetched data for your account, right? So we get a little bit of background info for you, like which authentication methods do you have, in which groups you are. Maybe you also want to know which PIML rights you have, right? So that is all in that report, which is, I think, a lot of extra benefit from just you having to hunt for every identity involved and having to hunt for every user involved. So that is just, it makes life easier.
Yeah, absolutely, and it saves time. All right, then we see some device assets, as I already mentioned. What I really like is the integration into the threat intelligence. So we get some, it depends as well as on the incident and which is involved. But we will get from the Microsoft threat intelligence, because Security Copilot has premium access to the TI informations provided by Microsoft. This is also something what I really, really appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, let's go over that. It also is very transparent, I think, and we have this little section built in on purpose. So even if you get the report handed down, there is a little bit of information on what it didn't retrieve or what maybe wasn't involved. Like, for example, it says no analyst comments or manual investigations were recorded, which is true in this incident, right? But it would also tell you if something failed dramatically, right? So you can, it is very transparent in that way, and you can investigate very easily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what I also like is the remediation and recommendations part, right? So the agent is providing some recommendations based on the information the agent got. Yeah. He's able to provide recommendations, and he's also checking if some of these recommendations were already done in the past. So if you may have an incident which is already solved, you can run this agent against this incident to check it. So it's a kind of a double check.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also something that you mentioned. It includes this executive summary for the maybe non-technical leads that get handed down this report. And it also includes the remediations and recommendations for the analyst actually on the ground, needing to triage this or needing some follow-up actions maybe that he can do to improve the incident or maybe prove it more.
Yeah, exactly. Right. All right. That was the demo of one of our agent in dev. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed everything, what we showed you. And yeah, if you like, yeah, go shopping to the store and have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.